Hi everyone, it's great to be with you today. I'm going to be looking at a very challenging topic right now. I've just got back from a tremendous trip to Nepal where I've been working for 45 years. It was my last trip this time, and the purpose was to hand over um, the involvement I had possibly to HarvestNet. So Barry and Steve Shank were with me, and they were able to meet my contacts, and we had uh, a great week together. But when we were amongst the people there, we were really challenged by the fact that they are in a rolling revival, and it's throwing up issues that we're going to see um, in our context very soon now. I hope you believe that these are the end times and we are going to have an end time harvest, which will be fantastic and numerically impossible to calculate. And that brings about a lot of issues. We've been talking about this in HarvestNet for some time, and talking and just saying, yes, the harvest is coming. But I wonder if we've actually practically been preparing for what might be the harvest when it comes, because it will catch us out, because it will come suddenly and in ways we don't expect. And unless we prepare a new generation of leaders and disciples now, we are in danger of losing some of that precious harvest that God will give us. Um, and so I want to use an example that we found in Nepal. When I first visited 45 years ago, the church was just a few hundred in the nation, just a few churches um, under persecution. But now there's over 1 million Christians, and all the churches we visited on this trip were well into the thousands, with several church plant outs. And so in just 50, 60 years, they have been hit by an explosion of new believers. Um, the evangelism to them is no problem. We ask the question, what do you do to evangelize people? And they said, well, that's not the issue. That's not the problem. The people are so excited about coming out of darkness into light and the Jesus kingdom message that they naturally share with their friends, and friends come along to church. So it's not the actual evangelism that is any problem to them at all, but the growth has caused the problems that they are facing right now. Steve visited a church led by a young man full of young believers in Kathmandu. And this young man had already planted 5 churches. His church filled up, the building filled up, he planted out, it filled up again, it planted out, he filled up again, it planted out, and so on. And he said to Steve, who was ministering there on the Saturday morning, which is their church day, he shared with him that I've got enough young people now to plant 2 more churches, but I haven't got enough young leaders to pass them on to. And he is discipling new believers and new leaders almost 5 days a week, not just the evenings, but during the daytime too. So he's running full pelt to try and keep up with the leadership development. And I think that's a tremendous challenge to us, because we're going to face that unless we have some preparation. So now I believe it's a time to begin to prepare so that we can avoid some of these issues when revival hits and the harvest begins to happen. There, every believer is taught to disciple somebody else. And so they have as their motto Matthew 10:5-8, which is very challenging to us. It's Jesus' words, and this is the principle that they work on in terms of training believers who come into the church. It says, "Go to the lost sheep of Israel, and as you go, preach the kingdom of God is at hand. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, cast out demons. Freely you have received, now freely give." What a challenge that is. That's a challenge issued by Jesus that has not been ruled out since then. And so that issue is still part of our discipleship program, or should be. And every believer in our church should at least be able to pray some of those things into action. The other thing that we found is that when new believers come to the church, instead of making them sit through a sermon that they might not understand, they take them to another room, preach the gospel, give them discipleship training up to the point of baptism in water, and then they're baptized in water into the church, and then the proper discipleship program begins to happen. So there's a rolling of discipleship right from the beginning of their first experience of church. I wonder if that's true of us. Many of our churches are filled with people who come to participate, come to listen, come to a meeting on a Sunday. But how involved are they in the gifts of the Spirit, in the working out of the gifts of the Spirit, in training others, in passing on the legacy that they have to the young believers? Many of our leadership teams are growing in age, and that's a challenge. We need to be raising up new young leaders in our churches who have a passion for church planting and really going out with the gospel and seeing the kingdom come. And I'm not seeing that in UK. I don't know whether you are in the US, but we certainly need to address these issues of passing on to the next generation and training in an effective discipleship way. So my challenge for us today is, are we preparing for these consequences of harvest? Where are the 20 to 30-year-olds in your leadership team, and how many are you training up to take on the work in the near future? And we need people who are all out for God to be church planters and pioneers in the coming harvest. And the challenge has always been there from the start with Jesus. Christianity was established and flourished because of effective discipleship. And his mentoring raised up 12 believers who he was with, and he passed that on to them. He passed his heart for the kingdom, the way that he did things, his values, his training to 12 disciples, trained them to take the gospel to the ends of the earth, which they achieved in 3 years. I wonder whether we are so effective in our training and releasing as Jesus was. And of course, we have the example too of Paul and Timothy and others in the early church who are doing exactly the same to bring in the kingdom of God and establish it in every nation on the earth. And the Great Commission tells us to go into all the nations and disciple nations to come to the kingdom and to live kingdom lives with kingdom values. It's no surprise to me that Nepal is the second most country in the world with the most prolific believers coming to the Lord right now. Surprisingly, Iran is number one, Nepal is number two. Those are the countries where there are new believers being born again more prolifically than anywhere else. And so I don't know where we are on that list, but it's certainly not at the top. And so that's my whole challenge to you today. It's a challenge to me. We came back excited and blessed at the growth and the maturity of the church and the amount of young people there are all out for God, wanting to pass on what they know to their friends and to others. And the whole church life is geared around discipleship, around signs and wonders, on around the kingdom of God and transition of the nation. I was in Pokhara and I first went there where there was one church. And now there are 60 churches, and they've all joined together in unity to counter the social action that is needed alongside the kingdom preaching of the gospel. Things like drug addiction and alcohol, raising up people with agricultural and other skills so that they can earn a living in their society, to raise the level of income uh, amongst the poor, to care for the poor after the earthquakes and COVID, a real social transformation program come together because of the 60 churches who believe in the kingdom coming together and doing things together. And so I've got some questions, or Matt has some questions for you today. I'll just go through them quickly. These are the things I would like you to consider with perhaps your leadership team or even just a few of you together. How do you measure up right now to what's happening in Nepal? Because I'm in faith that you will come into that harvest time, and it will be sooner than we expect. And so the challenge is prepare now, get some programs together now so that you will be ready. You will have the leaders ready to take on these new challenges. So the questions I have is, how many people in your 20s and 30s in your church are you training up to be transitioned into future leaders of tomorrow's churches? Have you got a transition program in action? Particularly if you're in your 50s or 60s, you need to be thinking now of transitioning to the younger generation and passing on as a father what you know to others so that they can be equipped to proclaim the harvest. The fathers of the early church were the apostles, prophets, pastors, evangelists, teachers. Their role was to equip the saints for the work of service. And I believe many of us leaders now, that's our task, to be fathers, to equip the up and coming generation to do the fantastic job that Jesus has for us towards the end times. And so the next question is there a process to raise up a new generation of leaders? Share with one another how you disciple believers in your church. Is it effective? Are they able to lead others to Christ? Are they able to cast out demons and pray for the sick? What are the issues that you're facing in doing those things in your situation? Are you facing problems? Do you need help in overcoming these so that you can put proper discipleship programs into practice? Many of you probably have good, effective discipleship programs, but they need to be shared with others so that we can all learn and grow in our experience together. So that's my challenge. That's my heart. I'm a father now in the Lord, and I want to raise up as many young people as I can to take the baton and run for Jesus in these last days. God bless you.